Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. My name is Devon Readers, and today our guest is the wonderful host of the Label Free podcast, Deanna Radulescu. How are you, Deanna?
Great, Devon. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
I am too. Tell us about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Like you mentioned, I am the host of the Label Free podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. I've been doing my podcast for over 4 years. I was involved in corporate. I am no longer in corporate. Everything I do is around podcasting. I've created a media house where I produce, I grow social media, I grow YouTube, and I do press releases. So I do all the things around media because I feel like it is such a powerful tool for anyone that has a message. And yeah, we're approaching 450 episodes, and I think we're like over 400 5-star reviews now. I don't know. We've had a big jump. Over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're like growing like significantly, which is
So about other people's YouTubes in addition to your...
correct. Yes.
Okay, we might talk after this because I need help going to YouTube.
Okay.
So how did you get into podcasting and media and all of that?
So my story is pretty like in depth. I was married before my husband passed away almost 8 years ago. After he passed away, we had several businesses together. So we had our one business did over 20 million in sales. We had over
Dang.
150 employees. And so before he passed, I actually doubled the size of the company with one contract. It was a $20 million contract. So after he passed, I had to rebuild my life. I almost lost everything. And it's not a fun story, but you know what? I think we go through things to lead us to other things that are better. And so I always wanted to get into fashion. I love clothes. I love fashion. And so I created my own label, and I designed 3 collections. On my 3rd collection, I said, if it doesn't take off, I'm just gonna stop. So after my 3rd collection, I got out of the fashion business, and I got an email on how to start a podcast for under $100. And I was like, I don't know who the F I think I am, but I'm starting a podcast, and that's where
That's basically how it happened. Honestly, that's basically me too. I mean,
yeah.
I'm
So
like, how hard could it be? And the answer is very. Okay, go ahead.
it's a commitment. It's a commitment. So if you have an audience that you're serving, you have to release every day. The days that you say you're going to release, you have to release. You cannot take a vacation unless you do seasons. I don't do seasons, so I essentially release every week of the year. So I never get a vacation.
Maybe we should. I think I'm gonna start a tradition where I take a week in July off.
There you go.
But maybe we should do seasons. That's probably the smarter way to do it. But it is what it is at this point. We're just gonna review that movie.
Yeah, you know what? I have enough tools in place now that it's not that difficult for me. I just have to make sure that I turn them around fast enough for my producer so he can edit them and get them back to me. That's the only challenge, because sometimes I get caught up in everyday life and I forget, oh shit, I need to get an episode over to him. And so I have a life too. I could be on my computer 24 hours a day and still have more work to do. But you have to like let yourself live and take a break. Like I went to the gym today. I'm like, I got to get some cardio in before I get lost in my computer. You do have to take that time for yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna work out after this, and yeah, because if I sat at the computer all day, I'd either be playing Fortnite or podcasting. That's those things I do.
There you go.
Tell us about the types of guests you have on, and what's your favorite guest? Because I was listening to some of your episodes before this, because I was on your podcast and to prepare,
Yes.
and you have said some fascinating guests. So, what has been your favorite of those?
You know what? That's very hard to say because I always have a pretty dynamic conversation with every one of my guests. And I think that's just my ability to connect with them. I've been doing it for so long that I really love to pull out pieces of wisdom from them in their lives to share with the audience. So that's a hard one to answer because I really love all my guests, and especially you. You are fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you're saying this just because you're on here or not, but thank you.
No, you
Uh,
are fabulous. You are.
Thank you. So tell us about the most surprising thing about podcasting that most people wouldn't know. They
The
don't
surprise.
have a podcast.
Yeah, the surprising thing is the community is so great, and
It
it is
is.
and it's still in its infantry, so if you're in podcast,
And
I think also that it's still in its infantry, so that anybody that's in podcasting now is going to really reap the benefits as it continues to grow.
yeah, I thought of beating myself up because I'm like, if I knew I was gonna enjoy this as much, I would have got in about 5 years earlier because that was like
Yeah,
the really sweet spot. But what can you do?
yeah, what can just roll with it and keep growing at right now.
Tell us a little bit more of your backstory and how that influenced you, like getting into the show.
Like I said, I was married before. My late husband and I were together for 17 years.
Do you mind me asking how he passed away?
He had kidney disease, so he needed his
Oh,
third kidney transplant. I was administering dialysis at home, and his body was just breaking down. He had open heart surgery, he was on blood thinners, like, he was just declining rapidly towards the end.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that. How was that for you to go through?
You know,
Hard, but I know. Like,
I mourned him before he passed because like, he was giving up, like, he just didn't wanna do it anymore, and I think
yeah,
that's something that a lot of people didn't see how bad he was struggling, and I had to deal with him crying all the time and saying that he couldn't do it anymore, and I was always trying to motivate him, "Stay positive, we're gonna get through this, we're gonna get through this," and, I mean, it was like living with the ghost towards the end, and it was pretty traumatic, you know what I mean? Like, I was young, I was in my late 30s, so I was 'cause he was a little bit older than me, and it was just like to go through that so young, you never think that, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be a widow at 37, 38." That's nobody thinks that.
oh, that's been nobody's 10-year plan, I wouldn't anticipate.
No. Yeah, definitely not. So it was hard, but you know what I learned from it is that life is so precious and we like have every day we can make it our perfect day. And like we should never, you should always choose joy, peace, happiness, and anything positive. Cause you know what? It is just so short. We only have time is a commodity that all of us only have so much of, and we need to make the best of it.
Yeah, and, how did you, like, grieve after your husband's death and try to move on? Are you dating now? And if so, how did you date again? All that stuff.
I got involved with a very abusive boyfriend right after he passed. And he was, I don't know how I like resorted back to when I was like abused because I was abused as a girl. And I like went back to like things old ways that I was comfortable with. And I had done a lot of work on myself, a lot of counseling to not have an abusive relationship. And so it was very hard for me to get that guy out of my life. And I was crazy about him because I'm like, oh my God, he was younger, he was cute. And I was just like, but he was just so abusive. And that was so hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, I just lost my husband. He was like pretty much comatose for the last 8 months before he passed. And I get involved with this guy who's just taking advantage of me. And so I had to cut him out of my life and it was very difficult because I was alone for a long time after that, and I did not wanna date, and then when I started dating, and if I told anybody, like, I was a widow, it was like I was taboo, like, they didn't want nothing to do with me, and it was just like, I'm not the black widow, like, I didn't he was sick, he kept injecting steroids, that's why he had kidney failure. It was like I'm remarried now, so I'm
Congratulations. How long have you been married?
we just got married this year, so it's very new, but we've
Oh,
been
congratulations.
Thank you. Been together for the last couple of years, and it's been a beautiful relationship. It's probably a beautiful relationship, probably the best one that I've ever had.
Yeah, and that's awesome because especially after an abusive relationship, because I won't go into too many details, but I've been in one or two myself, and they're so good at conning you and pulling you in, and then
Yeah.
you're in this thing and you have no idea what it is till you get out and start to look at it with a counselor, and then you're like, "Oh my gosh, dating is terrifying." I haven't dated again since my last boyfriend because he had a lot of stuff going on, so I'm not blaming him. He had a lot of his own trauma
Yeah.
going on, but
Yeah. Hurt people. So people that are hurting typically
yeah,
lash out at others. And it's unfortunate that we haven't been taught to deal with our pain in a better way.
yeah. So, what is, like, the biggest lesson you learned from that
Best lesson
abusive.
I learned is to choose joy over anything because it's so easy for us to get like down and angry and bitter. I could easily got bitter. I could easily get become angry after what happened to me, but I decided to no, I want to live a life of joy and happiness. And that's a choice. We all have a decision, can decide to do that. We don't have to live in a state of misery forever. And that's just somewhere that is one thing that if there's anything I could impart on anyone is that feeling that I have inside me that I choose this joy every day. And I would love to give that to everyone.
That's awesome. So after that abusive relationship, how did you put yourself back out there and meet your husband?
So I tried the dating apps, but then those were all a bunch of they're a bunch of jerks. So
Oh my gosh,
wa-
yes.
I got
I
off of there.
yes. That those dating apps are not good, but anyways.
No. So I got on, I would go on and off of them. But then I met people like out. I go to networking events in the city. So I would meet someone at a networking event and date them for a little bit. And then just if there was a red flag that popped up, I'd cut them off real quick. And then I actually met my baby now. I met him at a party at a girlfriend's house, and we've been inseparable since.
What's his name?
His name is Mike.
And what attracted you to Mike?
His kindness and how he just wants to he just wanted to take care of me right away. So I wasn't in the best
Yeah.
circumstance yeah, so he just wanted to take care of me and he was concerned about my well-being. And after that, it was just, yeah, nonstop.
So how do you run a business and have a wife at the same time asking for a friend?
How do you run a business and have a life at the same time? You have to learn how to prioritize, and it's okay not to get everything done in one day. I have to allow myself the downtime that I need so that I don't burn out. Because if I burn out, I'm not going to be a good host for my guests. I'm not going to push their content out there like I need to. So if I have to take a day just to take care of myself, that's okay. Because I'll get up tomorrow and I'll be like just right at it again, and make sure you're prioritizing the right things to get them done, and stuff that's like irrelevant, you can always put in the back burner and get to it later.
I know, and you have to make yourself stop them too because it is addicting. Because social media is like such a numbers game. Like
Yep,
you have to like make yourself
sure
stop.
is.
So, what advice would you give to other people who've been going through what you're going through, like abusive relationships and having a sick partner and all that?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't been asked that before. My advice would be to not forget about who you are. Don't forget about yourself. Make sure you are taking care of yourself. That was one thing that I'm glad that I did towards the end, is that I had to be like, I was the most healthiest I ever was, because like I was doing everything. Like I'm pushing him in the wheelchair, I'm carrying the dialysis machine. I was doing it all. I had to make sure that I was healthy. So taking care of yourself is number one. And if you're in an abusive relationship, you have to just realize what your self-worth is. Everybody can talk to you until you're blue in the face. And until you realize or learn to love yourself, then you're going to continue to repeat the patterns, and you're never going to get out of that relationship. So it's really hard because I've been there. People talk to me all the time. Oh, don't, they were kept telling me how bad he was, and I just didn't want to hear it. And so I eventually had to start loving myself and realizing I deserve better.
Is there a moment where you realize? Because again, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but I had a moment where I realized, "Oh my gosh, this guy is not gonna work because he's abusive."
Yeah.
Is there a moment where you realize that?
There were several. He did a lot of really messed up stuff that I don't even wanna share because it's pretty embarrassing to deal with it. There were a lot of moments where police were coming to my house, they wanted to search my house because of things he was telling somebody else, and just, like, we got into a lot of fights. Like, I'll fight back. That's one thing about me is if they're gonna be abusive, I will fight back. I threw the toaster at his head. I earboxed him so bad he couldn't hear for a week. No, I'm not gonna deal with it, but it was just, like, getting him out of my house. I couldn't get him out.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's luckily these were long distance, but it was just like the getting them out of your life is the and again, he was the last one was going through out of his own trauma, so I wish him the best and I don't blame him at all. But
Yeah.
getting them out of your life, it's very hard to do
Yes.
because they know how to pull you back in with
They do, but you have to realize that you deserve better, and there is somebody else out there that's gonna be better for you, and until you learn how to love yourself, you're always gonna attract that kind of man. And that's one thing where women fail all the time, is that they don't learn to love themselves first before they let this toxic man in, thinking that they're gonna fix all their problems, make them feel better, and make them happy. That's false. Your happiness comes from within. Nobody else can do that for you but you. And we all have bad days. I have bad days, but even on those bad days, I'm going to love myself and know that I'm allowed to feel a little bit down. I'm allowed to just take some time to nurture myself and pamper myself and just allow myself to feel the feelings. But no one's responsible for my happiness, and I love myself enough to know what I do and do not deserve.
Yeah, it's just about knowing. And I had two like great parents. Like I was not abused. I was not really abused in any way as a child. There was one incident that happened with the babysitter, but that was about it. And but I still had to learn that because I think everybody has to learn that at some
Yeah.
point, unfortunately.
No, I agree. I agree. We all have our own journey. That's for sure.
What's your favorite part of running a business? Is it the media house? Is it the publishing? Is it the
Favorite part of running my business is the freedom that I have to.
yeah, getting to set your own schedule. Yeah, that's what
Yes.
attracted me to this. So so is there anything else you'd like to add before we get off here? Sorry, I'm first today.
We're getting ready to launch our Apple TV channel. That was a tedious process to get that done. And then we're going to be having we're launching a network soon. And so that has been something I'm working on, and it's very time consuming. I've had to take a break because it's overwhelming me, but we're going to hopefully within the next month or so here, we'll be launching that. So we've got some exciting stuff happening, and our goal is to continue to impact the world in a positive way.
So what is the process like with the Apple TV channel? Because I would be interested in doing something like that. But
So you have to have an LLC. So you have to make sure you're incorporated first, an LLC
okay.
or an S corp. And then from there, you have to put an application in to Apple TV for an app. And then once you have access to the app, you are able to stream on Apple TV. So it's a long process. I submitted
Oh,
the app.
so it's your own app. It's not like an actual channel.
No, you'll have a channel on Apple TV, yes, but you have to start with the app, and so that people know what they can expect, and then you'll be on Apple TV.
Okay, so give you like you said the app. Do you mean like the Apple TV app or
You have to build your own app for Apple TV.
okay? Yeah,
So
all right.
so you can stream your stuff. So like I've been uploading tons of content like the last couple of weeks. So I'm not even close to being done. So because everybody that I offer upgrades on my show, and so anybody that upgrades on my show will be streaming on Apple TV. They hit my YouTube, and then once we do Roku and Fire, they'll be on there as well. So I'm in the process of uploading all those guests that have invested in that portion of my business so that they can get even more exposure.
So if you could go back and tell yourself something then about what you're doing now, what would you say?
Just have faith. Have faith that you are in the right direction.
That's awesome. That's awesome because I asked that question because I'm in therapy and my therapist and I have been doing a lot. We could go back to that. And I always hate it when she asks me that, but it's very cool to look back on it and see once you get past that awkwardness. Is there is there anything else you would like to add before we get off here? I know we were all over the place today, but
No, it's fine. No, thank you for the opportunity, Devin. I think what you're doing is amazing.
where can people follow you on social media?
I'm everywhere. Label Free Podcast. You type that in. I'm going to pop up for pages and pages on Google or just Instagram.com/label free podcast. Anywhere that you put that in, I should pop up, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or have anybody interested in being guests. We're always looking for incredible dynamic guests like Devin herself. And I love being a guest on your show. So that's where people can find me and reach out to me.
That is amazing. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, follow us on social media. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe.